Long, long ago, somebody in our family had a birthday. Birthdays meant parties, and parties meant a visit to Grandma's house. What fun! As ever, the journey to Grandma's house was full of excitement and very interesting things to see. My name is Ian Currey, and this is Thinking Out Loud. Come on, let me tell you what I think. A visit to Grandma's house was always a really good day out. Grandma didn't live very far away, but the journey required an underground train ride. And not just any old ride, but a ride on 2 trains to get there on the deep level tube lines. I would always be so excited. At 8 years old, the Victoria line to Seven Sisters wasn't yet open, and so our route was a ride in on the Piccadilly line from Finsbury Park, changing at King's Cross onto the Northern line, and that's where the fun really started. We would often have to wait on the crowded platform for several trains to pass us by before one came along going to High Barnet. Tufnell Park, where Grandma lived, is on that branch of the Northern line, not on the Edgware branch where the trains we watch pass would be heading. A little bit of a deep dive will perhaps help our story today. There are 2 chunks of the Northern line that perhaps could operate as 2 independent lines. Now that there is a new extension on the other end too that goes to Battersea Power Station, that subject may very well come up with railway planners in the not too distant future. The 2 bits of the Northern line are marked on the map as joining together at Camden Town before diverging off into the northern suburbs of London. However, the map is a huge oversimplification. As you ride the tube into Camden, heading north, you will sometimes see an unusual sight of coming window to window with another speeding train alongside you heading in the same direction. The reality is that the split happens well before the station itself, and trains travelling in either direction can cross the junction at line speed, routing easily to either of the options each train would have. The engineering that makes this possible is remarkable, and 2024 marks 100 years from the time the junction opened. There are 2 almost identical junctions, one on top of the other, that allow a balanced schedule to operate that removes the need for thousands of people to have to change trains at the busy Camden Town station. Camden Town is a very busy station as it is, but really doesn't have the room to handle more passengers, so the clever junction was a really good idea. These days, Camden Town has become even busier than it was ever imagined it would because of Camden Market. Now, the market really only started being a thing about 50 years ago, as some of the warehouses beside the canal there became vacant and were turned into space for market stalls. And even then, it wasn't the huge attraction that it has become today. When the station opened and when the junction was added, yes, it was busy, but nothing like the massive crowds that are in that area now. But what a fun place. When I visit London, Camden Market is certainly on my list of places to visit. But at 8 years old, I hadn't yet worked out how the junction really worked. Why would we wait for trains to pass at King's Cross until one going our way came along? Why not go on to Camden Town and change there? Surely there would be more trains coming north, so more of our trains to choose from, right? Well, no sensible answers seem to be available. So on this particular trip, after 2 trains had already passed, I waited until the doors of the next train were closing and jumped on. There was a look of horror and panic on my parents' faces as they watched me whiz off into the tunnel on the wrong train, grinning and waving as I disappeared. Priceless. Small boy logic said, oh, I'd get to Camden Town in just a couple of stops, get off the train and simply wait for another one, going on to where Grandma lived. I remember thinking to myself, I might even beat them there if a train comes up the other branch, or at worst, I'll just catch the train the rest of the family will be on. I waited and waited and waited, but all the trains were heading to Edgware and none were going to High Barnet. Eventually, I asked the guard on one of the trains, well, why aren't there no trains going to High Barnet? And he told me, there are, you're just standing on the wrong platform. The wonderful junction is some way south of the station and not as shown on the map at the station. Disaster. By the time I figured it out, got myself to the right platform and on a train to Tufnell Park, the rest of the family were in panic mode waiting for me. I remember being told, if you ever do something like that again, I'll smack you so hard your eyes will rattle. I spent the short walk from the station to Grandma's house, moving my eyes around, wondering what it would actually take to make them rattle on their own. At 8, my logic was pretty good. If the map showed the line splitting at Camden Town, why would it split before there? If it did, the map would show it, right? I mean, Euston does it, so why not Camden Town? When I was a child, I spoke and thought as a child. But when I grew up, I put away childish things. A recent visit to Camden Market on one of the many layovers I've had to London this summer had me standing on the platform at Camden Town remembering my foolish but understandable mistake. My choice to jump on the train leaving my parents on the platform, of course, wasn't the smartest thing to do. Looking back, clearly they knew something I didn't. It was much easier to get on the right train in the first place than to have to navigate the complexity of changing platforms later at Camden Town, especially with 4 small children. Not knowing all the facts or getting information from flawed sources, I still think the tube map is misleading, is something that we're all familiar with and still goes on today, doesn't it? Putting away childish thinking is sometimes slower than it needs to be, and repeating things that are without merit or childish even demonstrate to those around us that we haven't yet grown up. Maturity of thought, speech and action is so vital these days, isn't it? Putting away childish ways of thinking seems to be much harder than it ought to be, apparently. Until next time, goodbye.